The idea of Warframe spans nearly 2 decades, and back in 2000 an idea was formed. The idea of a space sci-fi shooter was born, and as early as February that year, Digital Extremes announced their big project, which back then was known as Dark Sector. Dark Sector is the next step in the first-person action gaming experience, by blending the intense action elements of Unreal Tournament with the scope and character evolution of a persistent online universe. Dark Sector is set in a wake of world devastation, where survivors are scattered throughout the solar system in a vast crumbling network of outposts and space stations. Anarchy reigns as violent factions wage war over limited resources. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? And 5 years later, we will get a demo at E3 of 2005 showing off Dark Sector. And this version of Dark Sector was vastly different from the one we got in 2007, because this original demo was based around sci-fi, which was the sole reason as to why it was reworked. In this age, people were more interested in shooters, preferably World War II shooters, and publishers wanted to capitalize on this growing trend. And this was well before self-publishing and indie titles were a valid method to get your games out there. Publishers were the safest bet, because of their funding towards projects that caught their eye. But a lot of creative integrity is sacrificed to meet the needs and demands of these publishers, and Digital Extremes were subject to this. Required to change the foundation of Dark Sector to be less influenced by science fiction and more grounded in reality, to appeal to this growing trend in the gaming industry. These original concepts are still available to us, and were the foundation for what Warframe would become almost a decade later. Good evening, this is the Urban Spaceman, and welcome to the Urban Space Zone. With that lengthy introduction out of the way, let's just take a look at what Warframe looked like in 2005. The small amount of footage we have of this original concept, we can gather a lot and see a fair amount of similarities. One of the first glaring ones is the main character, Hayden Tenno, who is in his ancient Excalibur armor suit, as Steve puts it, which gives you a major hint as to what Warframe this would eventually become. Not to mention, Hayden Tenno would later be the main character for the Dark Sector we got in 2007. The gameplay was a lot slower than what we would eventually have in Warframe, requiring you to be more stealthy and seen by as little enemies as possible. A stark contrast to the hack and slash nature that Warframe would later adopt. It seems like, unlike Warframe, the power fantasy wasn't taken into consideration here. It's also interesting to note that years before Warframe was a thing, the second dream was already spoiled. But speaking of the second dream, the operator mode or focus mode was originally going to be in this game. It would be customizable and, in this particular instance, acted like an X-ray vision to scout out enemies, as well as generate tendrils from your head. Armed combat was a lot slower to stay consistent with the design of the game, being more stealth-based than combat-based, and you had ranged weapons as well, but you can kind of guess how slow they were in this build of Dark Sector. And that's it for gameplay. There wasn't much shown off. There was only a demo build, and we don't even have much available footage of that. Well, that I could find at least. But there is a trailer, and multiple snippets reveal so many more similarities, with the first similarity being Trinity in 2005, and you can't tell me that this is not Trinity because look at her, it is Trinity. And I won't go over the full trailer because there are so many similarities. There are probably a lot more similarities than the ones I'm going to point out, but I'll point out to you as much as I can, and link the full Dark Sector E3 2005 trailer in the description. But we see soldiers that would eventually become the Grineer, proof that at one point the Corpus and the Grineer were all one faction, with Corpus crewmen suits being found in the background of the trailer. We also see similarities to the Corpus ship tileset, which happens to be Warframe's first tileset, and the one that was used during the closed beta. We also see an early Jackal boss, which looks so much different than the one we got in the end. And the light set and the ending animation are so similar to what we got, it's absolutely insane. And this is practically all we have of the original Dark Sector, which Digital Extremes eventually refined and took a lot of risks, making what would eventually be called Warframe, the game we all know and love today. This video was a long time coming in all honesty, because prototype footage and seeing the changes between the concept and the full release have always intrigued me. And it's also sad to think that we could have got Warframe earlier, but a blessing at the same time, because if Warframe was under a publisher, I guarantee you we'd have to pay about £50 for the base game, and the expansions would be paid add-ons rather than free updates. And it's all thanks to these experiences with publishers that we got an incredibly fair free-to-play game which doesn't force microtransactions down our throats. But I can't describe the feeling I get when I look back at this footage. I feel proud in a way to see Digital Extremes come this far, and amazed at how this game has changed. And to me, Warframe is more than a game, as I've mentioned in my Fortuna review. It's a kick in the balls to the AAA industry, who's hell-bent on monetizing every single inch of their games, acquiring assets they don't know what to do with, shutting down those companies for giving them unreal expectations, and monetizing the living hell out of their games. All because of their corporate greed and how they push developers to release as many profitable games as possible, all littered with microtransactions, sacrificing all creative integrity the development team could have. I mean, look at Destiny. Look at how much creative integrity they sacrificed just to make a quick buck, and how they've totally betrayed the trust of many people. But that's a different topic. I'm not going to make this up Warframe versus Destiny. They're both good games in their own rights. It's just Activision is the main problem with Destiny in that regard. Digital Extremes have proven that you don't need to conform to trends in the gaming industry to achieve greatness. They would rather treat their players with the utmost respect and give them an experience that's worth playing than pander to a publisher or jump on a trend in the gaming industry. And this is something that development studios around the world need to pay attention to. Warframe isn't only a story about a game that broke all odds when everyone told DE that it would fail. It's a story about creating new standards for the free-to-play market and treating the player like a human being rather than a bank machine. So anyways, this is the Urban Spaceman. Like if you liked the video, dislike if you didn't. Subscribe to be part of the Conscious Zone. And click that notification bell to be part of the Hierarchy Club and to be called to action whenever I upload. So anyways, I'll catch you all in the next video. Goodbye.